with Superior, hike with Hiawatha. Come set your claws, experience the North.
I just love wandering around here in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Park. It's such a beautiful area. Hey, welcome to Great Getaways. I hope you enjoyed the theme song we're using today. It was written by a good friend of ours, Dan Hall, many years ago, but I think it fits perfectly for what we're doing today up here, experiencing the North. Today we're going to be traveling about 40 miles north of Manistee to the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. We're going to be concentrating on the eastern end of this park. We'll see things like the incredible Grand Sable Dunes and beautiful Grand Sable Lake, as well as Grand Sable Falls. We'll also spend time in the shadows of a well-preserved lighthouse on Lake Superior. We'll start our trip in the quaint little town of Grand Marais, so stay with us as we get right to the heart of the show.
The first-time visitor to the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore rightfully expects to see the colorful sandstone cliffs that have made it famous. And while the cliffs are self-described in the park's title, there is so much more to the park than just the cliffs. Looking out over the icy blue waters of Lake Superior, the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore is a unique blend of cliffs, beaches, sand dunes, and waterfalls. And while it's only 3 miles wide at its widest point, the park follows Lake Superior's rugged shoreline for more than 40 miles. Much of the land within the park is covered with forest, a beautiful blend of northern hardwoods, pine, hemlock, spruce, and fir. Many small lakes and streams are found within the park and provide a wealth of opportunities for the fishermen, and the many old logging roads and maintained trails found here beckon the hiker as well. The Pictured Rocks, for which the park is named, rise directly from Lake Superior and stretch 15 miles along the lake to the northeast of the town of Munising. For thousands of years, these walls of sandstone have been sculpted by wind and water into caves, arches, and formations that border on the fantastic. And like we said earlier, while no visit would be complete without seeing the cliffs, we were to discover other equally appealing natural attractions with the same remarkable beauty. On previous visits to the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, we had always begun on the west end of the park, where the main visitor information center is found. On this trip, however, we decided to enter the park from the city of Grand Marais, also known as the eastern gateway to the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
Has lived here since 1990. If you're not familiar with Grand Marais, it's up at the end of M77, up on the Lake Superior shoreline, out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, we call 77 our driveway. We have a driveway that's 25 miles long. Not many people can boast that. But it's a great area to live. We have a lot of activities going on all of the time. And we have snowmobiling in the winter, as well as the quads and the four-wheelers during all seasons. And we're getting into the quiet sports also, kayaking, and we have the splash-in with the seaplanes that come and visit, which is really a lot of fun. They do games and activities. We have the triathlon. In the last 2 years, we've had the roller ski-a-thon. And it's out on beautiful H58, which is now paved going west. We are referred to as the eastern end of the gateway to Pictured Rocks.
Pictured Rocks, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Sable Lake is out there and Sable Falls, which are very close by.
Very, very. And it's a beautiful area, and you can just do anything out there. They have a boat launch, and you can fish, water ski, just enjoy your day out there.
It amazes me how much has changed since I was first up here. because back then, I don't think very many people, and a lot of these newer buildings now in town that are here were not around. You didn't see any of that. It was really not much. I don't imagine there was many more than 20 or 30 people.
There is a wonderful pier in Grand Marais where anglers catch whitefish, anemone, and lake trout.
Well, it's a beautiful setting we're in right now. We're right on Lake Superior. We're actually down by a break wall here in Grand Marais. Now, we wanted to go down and sit on the break wall itself, but it's so windy out there that we had to come up here and stand a little bit away from it so you could hear us talking. I'm with Wendy right now, and Wendy has been here since 1990, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about this area and what the draw is to it.
Now, this channel behind us is always with boats coming and going in the summertime, and it's just fun to be down here to watch and be a part of. We have the sailboats, fishing boats, and water skiers.
All kinds of things coming in here. You got a beautiful beach over there too.
Oh, we do, and you know, it's such fun to look down at that beach because you know the temperature of the water here is not the warmest. But you look down at the beach and you see umbrellas and kids and families down there enjoying it. It's a great sight to see.
Well, fortunately, you've got this little bay here that's kind of protected, and with the sand, it probably warms up enough that people can get out here and do a little swimming. Lake Superior is known for its cold waters. And I mean, we're talking summer temperatures of 58, 60 degrees, but in the little bays here, it does warm up enough to swim.
Whether entering or leaving the park from Grand Marais, be sure to allow time for a visit down Coast Guard Point. There, near the end of the road, you'll find the Eastern District Ranger Station, which used to be a former U.S. life-saving facility. Besides office space for the Park Service, the building also houses the interesting Grand Marais Maritime Museum. Taking H58 west out of Grand Marais, we drove about 2 miles to the Sable Falls. Almost immediately, the pathway begins a rapid descent down the deep gorge formed by the river. Fortunately, the wooden boardwalk and stair system has resting and viewing points to make visiting the falls more enjoyable.
Out behind me here is Grand Sable Falls. We're in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Park, over by Grand Marais, the eastern gateway to the park. This is just one of the things that you can see when you come in here. This is just at the beginning of it. Grand Sable Lake is off over in the distance. That's where the falls are coming from. You can walk around and go up on the dunes themselves and look back over all this area here. We are on a pathway that takes us down by the falls here, but all the way out to Lake Superior too, where the mouth of the river is at. So it's a nice walk out there. Most of it's boardwalk, but there's a little pathway towards the end, and we're going to take you out there and see what it looks like.
The beauty of the lush, tree-lined gorge was matched only by the power of the falls cascading over the drops on its final rush to join Lake Superior.
Well, this is it. This is where the mouth of this little river ends up, right here on Lake Superior. Started in the Grand Sable Lake, came over to the falls, rapids through here. It's hard to tell as you're walking along, but this cut right through the dunes that are out here. And if you look down the shoreline from it, you'll see these huge dunes down there. That's where the rollaways that we've heard about today that are at, down that way. Some of these areas go up as high as 200 feet. So it's big sand dunes, not the kind you're going to climb up and down, okay? But this is one of the spots you can get down here following the pathway and coming out onto this beautiful area and look down there. Is that great or what?
The cold waters of the lake reflected a perfect blue sky, as Tom explained how the lake came to be.
The scenic overlook of Grand Sable Lake is about 3 miles from Grand Marais. And this lake is one of the most unique glacial lakes in the state of Michigan. It was formed when the glaciers advanced and stopped right here on the south end of Grand Sable Lake. You can see very clearly the ridges and little hills that are formed by the edge of the glacier when it receded back out, creating this huge, beautiful lake that we now look at. right here on what is now the south end of Grand Sable Lake. This lake is loaded with fish, including trout, northern pike, perch, splike, brook trout, and various panfish.
Looking north across the lake, spruce trees give way to shifting sands blowing in from Lake Superior. One large sand ridge in particular reminded us of the backbone of some half-buried prehistoric beast. If our imaginations ran away with us while viewing the dunes from Grand Sable Lake, what would happen if we actually climbed the dunes themselves? That was something we just had to find out. The Grand Sable Dunes are 4 square miles of wind-deposited sand dunes sitting atop glacial sand deposits between Grand Sable Lake and Lake Superior. Perched yet another 100 or so feet above the Grand Sable banks, we knew the view from the top of the dunes would be extra special. After huffing and puffing our way to the top, we were treated to the sight of a barren landscape that tumbled off toward the north and beyond. And maybe barren is not the best word to describe the dunes, as a closer inspection revealed a unique relationship between the sand and the life that makes its home there. Clumps of grass had braced itself from the formidable Lake Superior wind by growing on the lee side of the dunes. Stands of spruce find tenuous footholds among the more stable pockets of sand, and even small animal tracks that go seemingly nowhere before being erased by blowing sand are proof that these dunes are far from barren. The area we know as Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore was once home to what was then thought to be an inexhaustible supply of virgin white pine, Michigan's state tree. Before the 1900s, vast expanses of these great trees once blanketed the landscape. When early logging operations began moving into the area, transporting timber by rafts on Lake Superior became a viable and profitable venture. One of the problems that early loggers faced was how to get the logs from the top of the dunes to the beach far below. A little ingenuity transpired, and the log slide was built. The actual slide is long gone now, but the site is still very much in evidence.
The log slide is at the western edge of the Grand Sable Dunes, and this is where the loggers back around the turn of the century would slide down the huge white pine logs. And the reason they would do that is they would get them out into the lake and then boom them up and raft them into Grand Marais to the sawmills there. The white pine that the loggers brought to this log slide came from Kingston Plains, which was logged off just before the turn of the century. These white pine trees were upwards of 300 years old, and they were huge trees that basically rebuilt the city of Chicago after the fire. The dunes, perched atop the Grand Sable banks, rise some 350 feet above the lake level. The area they cover is approximately 5 square miles. Within these 5 square miles are some of the most ecologically unique environments in the world.
The view from the overlook was impressive. Even from here, maybe especially from here, we could see the clarity of Lake Superior. Gazing toward Grand Marais, about 6 miles away as the crow flies, the multi-hued blues of Lake Superior contrasted beautifully with the tawny bluffs of the Grand Sable banks. If you go, be sure to prepare for the weather. Even spring and summer can bring cold winds in off Lake Superior, so dress accordingly.
It's amazing how much diversity and beauty can be found here in the eastern portion of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. A good example is the distinct contrast between Grand Sable Lake and Falls, where the lush green forest sits like an oasis next to the stark shifting sand of the Grand Sable Dunes. In the next segment of the show, we're going to continue exploring this area, where we'll find another distinction, the remains of mankind that are scattered across the landscape. I think you'll find this interesting.
With so much natural beauty already encountered, we wondered what might be next in store for us. Soon, the forested trail broke out into a clearing on the peninsula, revealing the Ausable Point Light Station. What an outstanding example of a lighthouse. The buildings looked to be in excellent condition. Guarding Ausable Point, the light tower is 16 feet in diameter at its base and stands 87 feet tall. The complex also includes a fog signal building and other assorted outbuildings. With the equipment that must have been stored in all the outbuildings, this light station must have been relatively self-contained. And with little need for outside help, maintaining the remote Ausable Point Light Station must have been a lonely job indeed. Just a short walk away from the log slide overlook was another outstanding viewpoint, maybe even more impressive than the one before. Here's what Tom had to say about the history of the light station.
We're standing now at the top of the Ausable Point Lighthouse. We're here in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. You can probably see the dunes out behind me. Now, most people think of the Pictured Rocks, think of the rocky areas. That's down to the west side of this park. Down here on the east side near Grand Marais, you get these high sand dunes that are out here. Whichever way you go, it's all beautiful. Now, we came out to the Hurricane Campground, Hurricane River Campground, and we have walked a 1.7 mile trail back to the lighthouse itself. I guess the trail itself, if we'd have stayed on it, probably wouldn't have been too bad, but we wanted to get down on the shoreline a little bit and follow that along, see some of the shipwrecks that are there. We caught sight of them. Spent a lot of time down along there, but it's a rough walk if you do that one because you're down in the rocks and the sand, and it's kind of hard going, but in results, you get up here and it is one beautiful place to be, and there's a lot of history too. It was built by the United States Lighthouse Service back in 1874. It was turned over to the Coast Guard in 1939 and manned until 1958 when it became an automated light. In addition, this lighthouse was placed here because it was known as the shipwreck coast along Lake Superior. There are over 100 shipwrecks between Grand Marais and Munising, and once this lighthouse was established, it limited the number tremendously. Some of those shipwrecks can be viewed just west of the lighthouse along the beach of Lake Superior.
It was getting late in the day, but we liked the idea of walking the beach and seeing a shipwreck firsthand. Where in the world would we get the chance to do that again? After capturing the light station with our camera from nearly every conceivable angle, we left this quiet place and began making our way down the coast, back toward the campground. The beach was beautiful, consisting of fine sand and egg-shaped stones worn smooth from the endless massage of water. Other stretches of beach had large monolithic slabs of sandstone erupting from Lake Superior's blue depths. Stopping occasionally to look back, the Grand Sable banks looked ever so much like the ramparts of a giant fortress standing ready to thwart an enemy attack from the sea. While these images may have come from a fantasy novel, there are times that this beach sees violent confrontations more powerful and deadly than any seafaring army. Terrific storms spawned over this great expanse of water unleash fury on everything that stands in its path. And throughout the years, these storms have proven costly to ships passing near this coast. We found the remains of this battered wreck lying in just inches of water. Broken spars and grotesquely twisted metal bore the scars from a violent storm long ago. Were there any survivors? What precious cargo was this ship carrying? Could the Ausable Point Light Station have helped had it been there? Questions like these continue to intrigue and fascinate modern historians. Earlier in the day, we had a chance to visit the Grand Marais Maritime Museum and see some of the artifacts on display. Inside the museum, we saw an original Paris-made Fresnel lens that once operated in the beautiful Ausable Point Light Station. Also on display was a life-saving gold medal, the nation's highest peacetime award for valor. A medal like this could only be awarded to those who nearly lost their own lives performing a heroic act of rescue. The annals of the U.S. Life-Saving Service recount many such acts of bravery. Not all lived to be presented with such a medal, however. Further along the coast, we encountered more pieces of wreckage. From year to year and storm to storm, the beach takes on a different look as the powerful forces of the lake rearrange the broken fragments like pieces of a puzzle. As we neared the Hurricane River campground, we got to hear a first-hand account of what it's like to see the shipwrecks on the beach.
Well, it's the first time I've been down there on this beach to see those, and they make you stop and think. You look at those old timbers with the old nails, it's all worn, but you can still get an idea how big those boats were, and big pieces of iron strap that they used to apparently hold things together. It really makes you wonder what it looked like when it was new. And of course it makes you think about what kind of storm they had, what kind of problems they had, and it's quite impressive. It's well worth the look. I mean, pictures really don't do it justice. You need to go down there and actually hear the crashing of the surf and take a look. It's worth going to.
It is indeed a feeling you have to experience for yourself. We found ourselves looking long and hard before leaving. The Hurricane River passes right through the heart of the campground. A wooden footbridge crosses the river for the convenience of campers, and although the river concludes its course here, it still shows it has a wild side as it continues to twist and tumble its way to the beach. On the way back to Grand Marais, we had time to reflect on the day. As planned, we didn't see the colorful cliffs that make the pictured rocks famous, but we did see many other incredible scenes of beauty just the same. Just the winding drive into the park was an enjoyable experience, and the trip back to Grand Marais in the late afternoon sun was equally as pleasant. We found the time spent in the east end of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore to be well worth the effort, and if you go, we're sure you'll agree.
Well, as we've seen, the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore is full of beautiful vistas and scenic overlooks. Although we've only been able to show you a few of the highlights of the park today, it should at least give you a little bit of an idea of what you want to look for when you come up here. And don't forget to check out and like our Facebook page, where we show videos of our trips, new and in the past. You can find all our videos on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like more information, you can always go to our website at greatgetaways.tv. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.